The day I discovered my husband had sold our dream home, I was planning his surprise birthday party. I was sitting at our kitchen table, in our house, the one we'd spent 3 years renovating together, scrolling through caterers and making a guest list. I remember the sunlight coming through the windows we'd installed ourselves, the ones that overlooked the garden my father helped me plant before he died. Everything felt normal, safe. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Harrison. This is James Chen from Prestige Real Estate. I'm calling about the closing next week. We just need to confirm a few details about the property transfer for 2247 Maple Grove Drive. I froze. I'm sorry. What property transfer? There was a pause. A long one. Your home. The sale is scheduled to close on the 15th. Your husband didn't mention this to you? My husband sold our house, and I had no idea. Much my father meant to me. I met David Harrison when I was 26. I was working as a paralegal at a small firm downtown, and he was a financial advisor with big dreams and an even bigger smile. He was charming, confident, the kind of man who made you feel like you were the only person in the room. Our first date lasted 7 hours. Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into a walk through the city. And by the time he dropped me off at my apartment, I knew. I just knew. We got married 2 years later in my father's backyard. Dad was already sick by then, stage 3 lung cancer. But he insisted on walking me down the aisle. I wouldn't miss this for the world, sweetheart, he'd said, even though every step hurt him. 6 months after the wedding, my father died. He left me everything. Not because he had a lot, he was a high school teacher, he lived modestly, but because I was his only child. My mother had passed when I was 12, and it had always been just the two of us. The inheritance wasn't much, about $300,000, the small house he'd lived in for 30 years, and a life insurance policy. But it was enough to change our lives. David and I had been renting a cramped apartment in a not great neighborhood, dreaming about someday owning our own place. When the inheritance came through, David sat me down with spreadsheets and investment portfolios and this ambitious plan. We could buy our dream home, he said, eyes bright. Use your dad's money as a down payment. Get a place with good bones that we can fix up. Build equity. This is our shot, Emma. I loved that he said we, that he included me in the planning, made me feel like we were partners building something together. We found the house 3 months later. A 1920s craftsman with original hardwood floors, a wraparound porch, and the most beautiful oak tree in the backyard. It needed work. A lot of work. But I could see the potential. More importantly, I could imagine the life we'd build there. This is it, I remember whispering to David as we stood in the empty living room. This is where we raise our family. He kissed my forehead. Whatever you want, babe. This is your dream, leased in a trust. It's your inheritance. And legally, you have the right to protect it. I remember laughing. Actually laughing. Protect it from what? David's my husband. We're building this life together. I know. I'm just saying, it's smart to have safeguards, especially with this amount of money. But I didn't want safeguards. I wanted a marriage built on trust, not prenups and separate accounts. So we compromised. The house would be titled in my father's estate, technically still part of the probate process, until all the legal paperwork cleared. Then we'd transfer it to both our names. That was the plan anyway. Except the paperwork took longer than expected. Months turned into a year. The lawyer kept saying there were complications with the estate, tax issues to resolve, documents to file. And honestly, I didn't push it. We were living in the house, renovating it, making it ours. What did it matter whose name was on the deed? David never mentioned it. Not once. Now I know why. at the kitchen table for a long time. My hands were shaking. My mind was trying to make sense of something that made no sense. David had sold our house, our home, the place we'd poured our hearts and money into, the place where we'd planned to grow old together, without telling me. I called him. It went to voicemail. I called again, and again. On the fourth try, he answered. "Hey babe, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back? Did you sell our house?" My voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. Silence, the kind that confirms everything. "Emma, I can explain. Did you sell our house? It's complicated. I was going to tell you, I needed to handle some things. First, what things? What could possibly justify selling our home without telling me? I made some investments that didn't pan out. I needed to free up capital quickly, and the house was our biggest asset. I found us a great condo downtown, modern, no maintenance. You can't sell this house." I was shaking now, anger replacing shock. "It's not in your name. It's still part of my father's estate." Another pause, longer this time. "About that." His voice changed, became careful. "I handled the paperwork, got it transferred into my name last year. You signed the documents, remember? When we were refinancing?" My blood ran cold. We had refinanced a year ago. David said interest rates dropped, that we could save money. He'd brought home a stack of papers, pointed to signature lines, and I'd signed them while cooking dinner. Trusting him, believing him. "You forged estate documents?" I whispered. "I didn't forge anything. You signed them. Legally, it's all above board." "I signed refinancing papers, David, not a property transfer, not a sale agreement. How could you—" "Listen, I need to go. We'll talk about this tonight, okay? I'll explain everything." He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, my entire world crumbling around me. You have copies of what you signed." I don't know. Maybe? David handled all the paperwork. We need to see those documents. If he misrepresented what you were signing, if he committed fraud, can he even sell a house that's in my father's estate? That's what we need to find out. If the house was never properly transferred out of the estate, if he forged probate documents. Emma, this could be serious, not just civilly but criminally. My head was spinning. What do I do? First, don't sign anything else. Second, I need you to get into your home office and find every piece of paperwork related to this house. Every document, every email, everything. And third, he paused. You need to prepare yourself for the possibility that your husband has been lying to you about more than just the house. Sites, the secret credit cards, maxed out and in collections, the loans he'd taken out using our house as collateral he shouldn't have had the legal right to use. And then I found the text messages. He'd left his iPad synced to his phone, and there they were. Months of conversations with someone named Amber. Can't wait to see the new place, baby. You really bought us a penthouse? Only the best for you. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, terrace overlooking the city. You're amazing. I love you so much. Love you too. Just need to handle things with Emma, and then we can start our real life together. I read those messages 3 times before my brain could process them. David hadn't sold our house to pay off gambling debts. He'd sold it to buy a penthouse for his mistress, using my inheritance, my father's money, the money meant to secure my future. Explain? My voice was eerily calm. Explain how you stole my inheritance? Forged documents? Committed fraud? Or should we start with Amber? It's not what you think. You sold our house, my house, to buy a penthouse for your mistress. What part am I misunderstanding? He ran his hands through his hair. The confident, charming man I'd Married looked small suddenly. Cornered. I made mistakes. The gambling got out of control and I needed money fast. Amber. She was just there when things got bad. She understood. She understood? She understood that you were stealing from your wife to fund your affair? I was going to pay you back. The investments I made, they're going to pay off, and then... There are no investments, David. I slid the bank statements across the table. There's just debt. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. You gambled away everything. My father's money, our savings, our future. And then you stole the one thing I had left. He looked at the papers, and something in his face crumbled. I'm sorry. God, Emma, I'm so sorry. I got in too deep, and I didn't know how to get out. I thought I could win it back, fix everything before you found out. Fix it? You sold my home. You betrayed me in every possible way, and you were planning to leave me for her, weren't you? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Get out, I said quietly. Emma, get out of my father's house. Transfer. David had been making payments on that loan using the equity, but the deed remained in the estate's name, which meant he had no legal right to sell it. When my lawyer informed the buyer, some tech entrepreneur who'd paid cash, the sale fell through immediately. Nobody wants to buy a house the seller doesn't legally own. Second, the money. David had taken out that home equity loan fraudulently, forging estate documents to make it seem like he had authority over the property. That's a felony. Multiple felonies, actually. Third, his plan to leave me. Under our state's laws, since we'd used my inheritance to purchase the house, I had a strong claim to it as separate property, not marital. Assets. His affair, the fraud, the theft. It all worked in my favor in divorce proceedings. David's lawyer tried to negotiate, offered to work something out, but my lawyer was ruthless. Your client committed fraud, forgery, and theft. He has two options: accept Mrs. Harrison's divorce terms or face criminal charges. David signed the papers. Within a week. Turns out her love was conditional on luxury apartments and financial stability. David moved into a studio apartment in a bad part of town. He's working 3 jobs trying to pay off the debts he accrued. I heard through mutual friends that he's banned from every casino in the state. I should feel vindicated. Should feel like justice was served. Mostly I just feel tired. On weekends. The bathroom we argued about paint colors in. The garden where my father's rose bushes still bloom every spring. Sometimes I walk through these rooms and feel haunted by the life I thought I was building. The family dinners that never happened. The children who were never born. The future that evaporated like morning fog. But other times I feel something else. Relief, maybe. Or possibility. Because this house was never really David's. It was my father's gift to me. A safety net. A foundation. A promise that I'd always have somewhere to belong. And David's betrayal didn't take that away. He tried. God, he tried. But in the end, my father protected me even from beyond the grave, wanted to protect me. Even dying, even trusting my husband, he'd made sure there were legal safeguards in place. The estate proceedings, the delayed title transfer, it all seemed like bureaucratic hassle at the time. Now I see it for what it was, insurance against exactly this kind of betrayal. My father knew something I'd been too naive to accept. Not everyone who claims to love you actually will. Some people see love as a transaction, a means to an end. And when you have something they want, money, security, access, they'll say whatever they need to say to get it. David saw my inheritance as an opportunity. He saw me as an obstacle, but my father saw me as his daughter, and he made sure I'd be protected. Meant blind faith. But trust isn't supposed to be blind. Real trust is built on transparency, consistency, and proof. It's earned through actions, not words. David asked for my trust and gave me nothing in return. No honesty, no loyalty, no partnership. Just pretty lies and financial manipulation. I won't make that mistake again. Rachel came over last week. She brought wine and takeout, and we sat on the porch, the one David and I built together, watching the sunset. "How are you really doing?" she asked. I thought about it, really thought about it. "I'm okay," I said. "Some days are harder than others, but I'm okay." "Do you miss him?" "I miss who I thought he was, the version of him I fell in love with, but that person was never real. So what am I missing? A fantasy?" She squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you think, Em." Maybe. Or maybe I'm just discovering strength I didn't know I had. Stored in the attic and never fully sorted through. And I found a letter, addressed to me, dated 2 weeks before he died. My hands shook as I opened it. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I hope that means you never needed the protection I tried to put in place, but I'm your father, and worrying about you is my job, even from beyond. I like David. I do. He makes you happy. And that's all I've ever wanted. But I've also seen how quickly charm can mask selfishness, how easily love can be confused with manipulation. So I've made sure the house, our house, the one with your mother's garden and my workshop and all our memories, stays protected. It's in the estate for now, and I've instructed my lawyer to take his time with the transfer. Give you a few years of marriage first. See how things go. If David turns out to be the man I hope he is, then the paperwork will eventually clear, and you'll own that house together. Build your life there. Be happy. But if he turns out to be something else, well, the house will still be yours, your safety net, your escape route. I trust you to know the difference, sweetheart. You're smarter than you give yourself credit for. Love always, Dad." I read that letter 5 times, tears streaming down my face. He knew. My father knew there was a possibility David would betray me, and he'd protected me anyway without ever making me feel stupid for loving the wrong person. That's real love. Not blind faith, but careful protection. Not control, but safety. Someone offers to help. I wonder what they want in return. But I'm learning to recognize green flags the way I once only saw red ones. The man who insists on splitting the check because we're equals. The one who respects when I say I need to take things slow. The guy who asks about my day and actually listens to the answer. Small things. Honest. Things. Real things. I don't know if I'll fall in love again. Don't know if I'll ever trust someone enough to share my life or my home with them. But I know I won't settle. Won't ignore warning signs or excuse bad behavior. Won't sign papers without reading them first. My father's house taught me that. These rooms and talk to my dad. I tell him about the divorce, about David's fraud, about how the house he left me became the thing that saved me. I thank him for being paranoid, for protecting me even when I thought I didn't need protection. And I apologize for not listening when his lawyer tried to warn me, for being so eager to trust that I ignored every safeguard. I like to think he hears me, that somewhere, somehow, he knows I'm okay, more than anyone ever has. David tried to steal it, tried to take the one thing I had left of my father and use it to fund his betrayal. He forged documents, lied to my face, and thought he could get away with it. But he forgot something crucial. The house was never his to sell, and I was never his to break. Forwarded through my lawyer, because I have a restraining order preventing direct contact. It was an apology. Pages and pages of regret, explanation, justification. He talked about his gambling addiction, his fear of failure, his desperate need to feel successful. He said he loved me, that he never meant to hurt me, that if he could go back and do things differently, he would. I read it once. Then I shredded it. Because apologies mean nothing without change. And David didn't lose me because of bad luck or unfortunate circumstances. He lost me because he chose to. Every lie, every forged document, every text message to Amber. Those were choices. Active decisions to betray someone who loved. Him. You don't accidentally steal someone's inheritance. You don't mistakenly commit fraud. You don't unknowingly destroy a marriage. David knew exactly what he was doing, and now he knows exactly what he lost. To school. Maybe getting my law degree, turns out experiencing fraud firsthand is a great motivator for understanding the legal system. Or maybe I'll finally start that interior design business I always dreamed about. God knows I have experience renovating houses. Whatever I do, it'll be mine. Built on my terms, in my father's house, with nobody's permission but my own. That's freedom, I think. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of choice. David took a lot from me, my trust, my innocence, 2 years of my life. But he didn't take my future. He didn't take my home. And he didn't take the lesson my father tried to teach me. Protect what matters, trust carefully, and never let someone else hold the deed to your happiness. A few months after the divorce was finalized, life started to feel quieter. Too quiet sometimes. There were mornings when I'd wake up expecting to hear David in the kitchen, humming off key while making coffee. I'd roll over, realize the silence was real, and feel that familiar sting in my chest. But then I'd look around, the sunlight spilling through the kitchen windows, the ones my father helped me measure before we installed them. And I'd remember, this silence wasn't emptiness, it was peace. Plans were. Now it was just me. And honestly, I didn't even know what I liked anymore. Sage green, my father's favorite color. I tore down the ugly backsplash David had insisted on and replaced it with hand-painted tiles I ordered from a local artisan. Every brushstroke, every tile, felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Father's rose bushes, waiting patiently for care. I spent weekends kneeling in the dirt, pruning, planting, remembering. Some days I cried while I worked. Other days I laughed out loud at the absurdity of everything I'd survived. Buying the old Jefferson place, and he introduced himself with a crooked smile and a box of donuts. I figured, if I'm going to make noise renovating, I should at least bring peace offerings, he said. He was kind. Quiet, but observant. He didn't ask personal questions, didn't pry. Just helped me carry soil and talked about the history of the neighborhood, how he'd fallen in love with its old trees and creaky charm. That time, I started volunteering at a local women's shelter, helping other women who'd gone through financial or emotional abuse. Most of them weren't as lucky as I'd been. They didn't have a father's foresight or a lawyer to protect them. They'd lost everything. Listening to their stories hurt, but it also healed something in me. Because for the first time, my pain had purpose. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was helping someone else do the same. Back. Surprise party for a man who betrayed me, and cried. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in years, I felt like my father would be proud. A part in how I refused to stay broken. Words safe, strong, home. Women I'm helping, I thank him. For the house, for the protection, for teaching me what real love looks like. Isn't a person. It's the place inside you that no one can ever sell.